Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome all viewers. Inshallah, today I wanted to talk a little bit about a very popular story that's all over the headlines right now, and I wanted to relate what we're seeing going on with some teachings from the religion of Islam. And this is something that's very important for us to be able to do as Muslims, to relate the teachings of Islam, the sayings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what Allah tells us in the Quran as well, to our daily lives, to things that are actually practically in front of us and occurring. Because this not only helps us better understand what it is that we're seeing and experiencing in this worldly life, but also reminders benefit the believers. The more that we remember the reality of this life, the better off that will be, inshallah. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with Sean P. Diddy Combs to an extent. I mean, very rich, famous CEO, entrepreneur, entertainer, and he has been for decades now. But he was recently arrested, and one of the crimes he's being charged with that I want to focus on today is one called racketeering. Now, racketeering typically involves a pattern of illegal activity carried out by a group or enterprise. And the hadith that comes to mind when I think about the situation is where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Whoever calls to guidance will have a reward similar to those who follow it, without their reward being diminished at all. And whoever calls to misguidance will bear the burden of sin similar to those who follow it, without their burdens being diminished at all." So just to paraphrase, if you encourage somebody to do something good and they do that good deed, you get the same reward as them. Why? Just because you encourage them to do it. But the same is true for bad deeds. If you call somebody to do something bad and they do it, then you have just earned the same amount of sin as that person. So the way that we influence other people is extremely important. So when we look at the situation of Sean Combs, this was a very rich, influential person. How did he use his money and influence? Well, allegedly, he used it to do a lot of terrible, illegal things. And if he's found guilty, then he can potentially spend the rest of his life in prison. But regardless of whether or not he's found guilty, regardless of whether or not he was ever actually arrested and caught for his alleged crimes in this life, one thing that's for certain is that in the hereafter, on the day of judgment, our book of deeds is going to contain everything that we've done. In the life of this world, there might not be cameras everywhere. We might not get caught by other human beings doing illegal things, but there is no escaping Allah. Allah sees everything that we do. Allah hears everything that we say. And everyone is going to have to stand before Him on the day of judgment. And the punishment of Allah is more severe and long-lasting than anything that a human being can punish us with in this life. So we should use this as a reminder and think, there's a lot of illegal things that we are too afraid and too anxious to involve ourselves in because we don't want to face the consequences, right? We're afraid of going to jail. We don't want to go to prison. So that deters us from doing things that are illegal. Well, shouldn't we be far more anxious and hesitant to break the laws of Allah, knowing that He sees what we're doing, He knows what we're doing, and there is a day where we're going to stand before Him, and His punishment is more severe? However, Islam is balanced. It's not all about warning of a punishment, but it's also glad tidings. Because as we mentioned, if you call somebody to do good, then you can also get the reward for everything that they do in following the good that you called them to. And one way to kind of conceptualize this is think about a CEO or a very successful investor. If someone starts a business and they start training people and giving them opportunities to work for that business, or investors put down money to facilitate this business functioning, then just by them facilitating all of their employees to work, they are going to benefit. And this is why investors and CEOs can make the most money. And speaking of CEOs, Sean P. Diddy Combs was a CEO. That's how he made so much money. He had other people doing jobs that he hired them for, and ultimately, he's the one that made the most money. And ultimately, the work that they did benefited him financially. And we can use this as an example regarding how to earn a lot of good deeds for the day of judgment. When we can call people to good and influence them to do good, we can get countless good deeds based on not things that we're doing. We just initially call them to that thing. But then when they continue to do it, maybe they call other people to do it, then only Allah can calculate how many good deeds are potentially being multiplied to go back to you on the day of judgment. So I say all that to say, all of us have a sphere of influence. All of us every day when we are interacting with people, the things that we say, the things that we do, the examples that we set are opportunities for us to call other people to guidance, to good deeds that we can benefit from. But it's also a responsibility in that if we use our abilities and blessings in the wrong way, then we can be incurring bad deeds for the day of judgment. So we ask that Allah make us of those who call others to good and therefore earn good deeds based on what they do. And we ask that Allah protect us from calling other people to do bad and therefore bear the burden of sin for what they do. Allah knows best. Thank you for watching. Are there any other hadith or ayat from the Quran that this situation reminds you of that we could perhaps benefit from? Please let us know in the comments. JazakumAllahukhairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.